What's up, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to one of my first videos for this upcoming 2014 NFL season. This video here is basically my thoughts and predictions for the upcoming 2014 season, as this video will consist of my picks for each division in both the AFC and NFC West conferences. And as we head into this season, I'm sure a lot of us are wondering and questions that we're asking ourselves here going into the start of the 2014 NFL season. Will the Seattle Seahawks repeat as champions? Will the Denver Broncos go back to the Super Bowl, and will Peyton Manning and that team get retribution? Will the Patriots find a way to get to the Super Bowl and try to win one more Lombardi trophy? What about the rest of the league? Will you take the field to see who's going to win this year's Super Bowl? All of those questions we don't know until the start of the regular season, but I can give you some quick thoughts in here before I get into my division winner picks. Now, it's really tough to say what is going to happen, but what's going to happen this upcoming season. But if you were to ask me, who would I have in the Super Bowl? It's very hard at the moment right now, but I will say one thing though. If you're gonna see if I have the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, they are one of my top 5 power ranking teams up there that possibly could get to the Super Bowl. And I have to throw Denver in there. And well, let me just give you my top 5 power ranking teams that have a legit chance to probably get to the Super Bowl. Number 1, I still have the Seahawks. I still think they're a favorite to get back to the Super Bowl. Number 2, the Denver Broncos. Number 3, the New England Patriots. Number 4, the Green Bay Packers. And number 5, the San Francisco 49ers. Those are my top 5 power rankings. Everybody has their own power rankings and who they have their top 5 teams to probably make it to the Super Bowl. But let's wait until the regular season starts and then we'll know. Anyways, let's get on to my division winner picks. Let me start with the AFC. Let's go to the AFC East. Patriots, Bills, Jets, or Dolphins? As long as Tom Brady is the quarterback and Bill Belichick is the coach for New England, I just don't see any other team in the AFC East to challenge them. Probably the only team that could probably give them quite a challenge, I would say probably the New York Jets. But then again, the Jets, they've been disappointment after disappointing seasons, except for the 2010 season when they beat the Patriots in the playoffs. But other than that, the way I see the rest of that division, I got to go with the New England Patriots here. Nobody's going to stop them in this division. And what are the concerns? Look, I know the Patriots right now, that AFC East division really is one of the worst divisions, because really the Patriots have dominated 11 out of the last 13 seasons winning that division. And if you look, I know the concerns going on with Gronkowski and the rest of the pass and what other weapons does Tom Brady have, but the rest of the AFC East just looks bad. I know the Dolphins could be an up and coming team, but I don't know. The Dolphins are like a roller coaster. They one season half decent, the other they go downhill. But let's just see what Tannehill can provide for the Dolphins. And as far as the Bills are concerned, too many off the field issues, especially with the franchise. Nobody knows if they're going to stay in Buffalo. It's just too much of a distraction. And then who's going to be quarterback for that team? I just don't know what is going to happen for that franchise. That franchise was really a great franchise until they really fell downhill in the 2000s. So anyways, the AFC East, I got to go with New England here. I don't think any AFC East team is going to beat them for the division. Got to go with the Pats in this one. AFC North. Now this is going to be a very, very competitive division this year. Steelers ramped up their defense a little bit, but let's see if they can hold up. I guarantee this is going to be a very competitive division because the Ravens did improve a little bit offensively and defensively. The Bengals are the Bengals right now with the new contract for Andy Dalton, and all the pressure now is on him to lead that team. And of course, the Browns, we don't know. You got Hoyer starting for the Browns. But if he starts playing bad, will we see Johnny Football? Will Johnny Manziel get in there and play for them? Tough to say with that division. It's going to be very competitive. It would not surprise me if two of those teams make the playoffs, but wait and see. But it comes down between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I mean, a lot of people say, but what about Cincinnati? They won the division last year. Defensive wise, I don't know if they're any better defensive wise. Offense, there's going to be a lot of pressure to protect Andy Dalton. And I don't know if the Bengals can finally get off the schneid and get past the wild card round, because their last playoff appearances that were all in the wild card, they were one and done. But if I have to say, who wins this division, I mean, this is a tough one to pick. But if you're going to ask me who wins the AFC North, I'm going to go on a wild guess here. I mean, I do like what the Steelers did. I know defensive-wise they improved just a little bit, but I don't know how well Ben Roethlisberger can play. I mean, he didn't play all that well last year. But I'm going to take a wild guess here because this is a tough one to pick. I'm going to say the Steelers win the division. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I see them winning the division barely, because this is going to be a tough division this season. It's not going to be where Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati, one week they play well and the next week they play badly. I mean, all three of those teams are in it, and who knows? I think two of them could get in the playoffs. Wait and see. But I'm going to go out on a limb. It's a tough one here. I'm going to say Pittsburgh wins the AFC North division. AFC South, this one's a no-brainer here. I didn't see much improvement out of Tennessee. I didn't see much improvement out of Houston and Jacksonville. Not much in the draft. I mean, they drafted another quarterback during the draft this year, and there's a lot of questions and concerns what goes on with that team, and I really don't know what to expect out of Jacksonville. The Indianapolis Colts look more complete in that division. This is a no-brainer here. You got to go with the Colts in the AFC South. They're pretty complete. I know their defense is going to be a question, but the rest of the AFC South is just horrific, very, very horrific. I just don't see Tennessee, Jacksonville, or even Houston leapfrogging Indianapolis. And I got to go with the Colts in this division. That one's pretty easy. You got to go with the Indianapolis Colts to win AFC South. AFC West. This one is another tough one here. We know Denver easily dominated the AFC West throughout the entire season, and I know the Kansas City Chiefs much improved than they were a couple of years ago when they really had terrible records. I mean, they ended the playoffs even though they lost to Indianapolis in that wild card round. In all honesty, I couldn't believe they choked that lead, but that's a whole nother story. The Chargers got in by luck on the final day of the season, and the Raiders flat out stink. Don't expect me to ever pick the Raiders in that division. I will never, ever believe the Raiders until they actually do something, get good players, and have a decent coaching staff. And I never picked the Raiders in the AFC West. They are a terrible team. Anybody who thinks that they're going to be in the playoffs this year, I don't know what you're smoking, but there's no chance in hell. I mean, they're going to be in last place, and they deserve to be in last place for the way the franchise is being run to the ground right now. But anyways, going back to the division again. No question Broncos win this division, but I do see San Diego. I do see the Chargers possibly getting that last playoff spot like last year. It sounds like what I've been saying might be a repeat of what happened the previous season, but it's really tough to say. I mean, what people are telling me, what about Kansas City? A lot is asking out of Alex Smith to see if the offensive line can protect Alex Smith. I mean, they started out undefeated until they lost to Denver during the regular season, and then all of a sudden that team just went downhill. They were lucky to make the playoffs, but I don't know. I don't know if Kansas City has the same hunger as they did last year, but I do see improvement more from the Chargers side. I know defense is still a question for them. But offensive-wise, I mean, I know they have a new offensive coordinator in Frank Reich, but from what I've been reading out of the Chargers camp, I mean, there are a lot of people that say they're impressed with Frank Reich, and could this transform to keep to keep a decent, good offense for Phillip Rivers to work with. But AFC West, clearly this is going to be the Broncos division. Broncos didn't lose all too much, maybe a couple players to free agency, but really right now, and I know Wes Welker's health is a bit of a concern. If you watched any preseason games, I think he only played 1 or 2 games, but Denver looks pretty complete. I don't see anything wrong with Denver, and I don't see how they don't lose this division. So AFC West, you got to go with the Broncos here. Let's switch over to the NFC. NFC East. Philadelphia winning the division last year, and when, of course, under new coach Jim Kelly and quarterback Nick Foles, the Eagles really went on a tear during the regular season, and they easily got into the playoffs, especially had to win on the final day against the Cowboys. But they ended up losing in the divisional round to the New Orleans Saints. But if I look at the rest of this division, I didn't see much improvement out of the Giants, out of the Redskins, and out of the Cowboys. And I'm not gonna believe much out of the Cowboys side. I mean, Tony Romo's health is a big question right now after he had an injured back prior to the end of the season, and then they couldn't do anything. Then they couldn't do anything against the Eagles in Week 17 last year. Cowboys right now, I don't know what is going to happen to them, but they're kind of a mess right now. They lost Ware, and that team really right now is a mess. I don't know what to expect out of the Cowboys. The Redskins, I mean, too many off-the-field issues. Of course, everybody is wondering if that name is going to change and all. But players-wise, a lot of I've heard, if anybody heard Joe Theismann said, they say that Cousins is playing way better than RG3. I mean, that's really pretty shocking. I mean, I did see I think it was maybe one Washington Redskins game, and in all honesty, both Cousins and RG3 didn't even look that good. So I don't know what to expect from the Redskins this year. For the New York Giants, let's see how well Eli Manning can work with the new offensive line, because really the Giants during the regular season, I mean, their offensive line got destroyed by defense big time. Eli Manning took a lot of sacks last year, and nobody knows what to expect for this Giants team this year. And a lot of people are wondering, will this be Tom Coughlin's last year? I mean, after the disappointing season last year, nobody knows for certain what to expect out of the Giants, but I didn't see much improvement out of their offensive line, and it's going to be scary. But for the Eagles, this is kind of a no-brainer here. I mean, I got to go with the Eagles to win the NFC East. If they can keep this offense in sync, get them going, team chemistry together, I just don't see anybody in the NFC East beating Philadelphia. I got to go with the Eagles here. I think the Eagles win the division here. NFC North. This is another no-brainer here. I got to go with the Green Bay Packers in the NFC North. Even though I know defense-wise there is some questions there, and I know due to injuries last year to Aaron Rodgers, and defensive-wise they lost some key players there, and including Matthews. I still like the Packers in this division because I look at the Chicago Bears, their offensive line, their offense. I mean, they did get a little bit better, but then again, you got Jay Cutler at quarterback. He hasn't been consistent since he's been there, and I haven't seen much offensively out of that team, except maybe, I mean, they kind of do lack also a running game too. That's not helping. That's not helping keeping their defense off the field, because they also have defensive issues. And if I go to the other teams, the Detroit Lions, they've been a huge disappointment. They've only had one playoff appearance, and that was in 2011. I just don't see any much improvement out of the Detroit. I mean, really, it's their defense that's really the Achilles heel on that team. Matthew Stafford, I don't know how well he's going to play this year. If he doesn't stop throwing interceptions, I don't see the Detroit Lions going anywhere. And Minnesota, not much improved either. I don't really see them doing anything this year. Maybe if they're lucky to get 5 wins or 6. I mean, that actually would be a much improvement than they did last year. I just don't see nothing out of those 3 teams. I mean, this is easily the Packers division to win or lose. The NFC South. This is a tough division here. There hasn't been a repeat division champion in this division in years. And I mean, you got to go with the top two teams in this division, the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. I mean, those two teams are favored to win that division. Tampa Bay, who knows what's happening with that franchise, and they also have a quarterback issue. And the Atlanta Falcons, I didn't see much improvement in the. I saw a couple of their preseason games. I didn't see much improvement from both sides of the ball, but they probably will win they'll probably win a couple more games this year than their records show for it. But really, it's the Panthers and the Saints for this division here. Now, I know for Carolina, going into the start of the season, I know Cam Newton hurt himself during preseason, and his health is going to be a bit of a concern going into the start of the opening week. And New Orleans Saints, I know Drew Brees also got hurt a little bit, but he's expected to be fully fine in time for the opener. And I know that he has more wide receivers to work with now. And it's really tough to say who wins this division here. I mean, both of these teams could possibly end up being in the playoffs here. But Carolina won last season, but I just think now New Orleans with more offensive weaponry, I just see New Orleans winning this division here. I think I'm going to go with New Orleans over Carolina for this division. But I might see Carolina in the playoffs as well. Their defense looks pretty good. But offensive-wise, let's see if Cam Newton is going to be healthy by the start of the regular season. And let's go to the NFC West. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this. Now, of course, the defending champion, Seattle Seahawks. They're still favored to win this division. I mean, I looked at some of their games in the preseason, especially the one they ended up beating the crap out of my Chargers. But really, even though despite losing some key players to free agency or trades, this Seahawks team still looks good. They look good. I don't see San Francisco leapfrogging them to beat Seattle for this division. I mean, I know San Francisco, I mean, they do have some questions here, but more on Seattle here. I mean, Russell Wilson, he's really at the top of his game. It's really hard to pick out any flaws he has. I mean, this guy's just brilliant at quarterback. I mean, I'm not trying to kiss his ass or anything, but really, Seattle's a complete team. I just don't see anybody else in that NFC West division just trying to get past Seattle here, but I still can't count out San Francisco here. I know defensive-wise, they're hurting big time. I know Navarro Brown, he's still recovering from that torn ACL in the NFC Championship game last year. I know a lot of defensive players-wise, and then Aldon Smith, he's got legal issues right now. He probably will be suspended. And I didn't really, and going to offense here, Colin Kaepernick really did not have a good preseason. He hasn't really played well. And he seemed to be inconsistent. He's throwing a little bit more incomplete passes. And I don't know. I don't know if that offensive line is going to be able to protect them. I mean, just wait and see. But the 49ers, I still see them probably getting back to the playoffs. But it's tough to say. I don't know, because really, I look at Arizona. They were 10-5. They didn't make the playoffs last year, and they were on a surprise. I mean, Carson Palmer played very well with them last year, but really Arizona's concern is really their defense. And it's tough to say. And I know I feel bad for the St. Louis Rams. I mean, Sam Bradford is out for the entire season. He tore his ACL. And I don't know if their next quarterback is going to help them. I mean, this is not another Kurt Warner story. I mean, I feel this St. Louis Rams team, I mean, they're just snake bitten. They really are snake bitten at quarterback. I just don't understand what goes on with that team. But as far as everything goes the rest of the way in the NFC West, you easily got to go with Seattle here. I just think Seattle's more complete in this division. San Francisco is going to I think they're going to really have a much harder time trying to catch them. And don't count on Arizona. If their offense can stay in sync and Carson Palmer plays well like he did last year, I mean, who knows? Arizona could be a surprise. But anyways, that is it for my predictions for both the AFC and NFC conferences. Stay tuned as my Week 1 4 key game videos. My 4 key game video picks is returning. Be sure to check that out next week. And of course, I will be working on my Week 1 picks as well on my blog. For the moment, My blog is still crazyfrankie56.blogspot.com, but I might make a few changes coming up pretty soon. So it might be a new link. So I'll let all my NFL gurus know what to expect. But anyways, now I will see you all next week as I talk about the 4 key game picks for week number 1. Until then, take care.